Today we're going to go swimming with some jetpack men. And to do that, we need to go back in time. We're going back to the 80s, a different time, a different place. So let's have a look. Just going to let NASA give you a little rundown here regarding the jetpack, or the MMU as it was known, and I'll come back.
Powered by 24 nitrogen jet thrusters, the MMU is a self-propelled backpack that gets an astronaut and his tools quickly and efficiently from one place to another. On the simulator at Martin Marietta's Denver Space Center, the astronauts mastered the MMU in less than 18 hours. To fly, an astronaut uses hand controls mounted on his armrests. The left hand determines speed and direction, while the right hand determines attitude, or in pilot's terms, pitch, yaw, and roll.
Right, now we come to this scene, which is footage from the Space Shuttle's cargo bay during the historical so-called first EVA wearing these jetpacks. I want you to listen to, we've got the two astronauts here, Bob Stewart and Bruce McCandless. Bob is talking to Bruce here, and I want you to listen what Bob says. Very telly, as we're about to see in a minute, okay? It's old school footage, so it's not the best quality, and of course they do that for a reason, because they're hiding a lie. And of course we know most of this old stuff is underwater. But listen to the conversation here between these two so-called astronauts. Very telling. Remember, they're supposedly in the space shuttle above the Earth, orbiting the Earth. Okay? Now listen to the conversation.
That looks real smooth, Bruce. Just like you're on that simulator up there in Denver. Hey, I can see stars out here.
That looks real smooth, Bruce. Just like you were on that simulator up there in Denver. And of course, Bruce comes in very quickly. Oh, I can see stars. In other words, shut up, Bob, for fuck's sake. Because Denver, if you're in a spaceship above the Earth, orbiting, cannot be up there, can it? It's below you. So no wonder Bruce quickly went on about the stars, which again drops you guys in it, because there's so many contradictions regarding can you see the stars, can you not? But the fact Bob seems to think Denver is up there is rather telling, as we're about to see. Now that statement from Bob about Denver being up there, when of course he's supposedly above the Earth, orbiting the Earth, and of course Denver would be below him. Of course, so that statement got me thinking. And of course we know these people train in the underwater pool, NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab. It's even Bruce McCandless himself there, the original jetpack man who stars in this video. There's Bruce in his jetpack, underwater. Surprise, surprise, in a mock shuttle cargo bay. So of course that got me thinking, where's the Neutral Buoyancy Lab in relation to Denver? So let's have a look on Google Maps and see if from the Neutral Buoyancy Lab's position, Denver is up there. Bear with me. Okay, I'm on Google Earth and I'm at the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, which happens to be in Houston, and I've plotted a journey between the Buoyancy Lab and Denver. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to look at the elevation stats here? Between the 2 points of reference, NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab in Houston, and of course Denver, where the simulator for the jetpack is, wouldn't it be interesting if we were at the Buoyancy Lab and the elevation stats to Denver suggested that Denver was, of course, up there. And surprise, surprise, when we look at the elevation stats between these 2 points of reference, NASA's Buoyancy Lab and, of course, Denver. And like I said, it turns out Denver is up there. Bear with me. can see the plotted journey at the bottom here. On the left is the buoyancy lab, the start of the journey. On the right is Denver, the end of the journey. And like I said, surprise, surprise, Denver is up there from the buoyancy lab. Bob, you kind of gave the game away with that statement, mate. When you're in a spaceship orbiting a globe Earth, you're always above it. So Denver would be down there. But of course, you're not in a spaceship, fella. You're at the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, which is in Houston. And Denver, in relation to you, is up there. And of course, we've just checked that with Google's elevation stats. And as a result, yeah, not a good day for you, Bob. And it's going to get worse as we review more of this old school footage. Bear with me. Now it's Bruce's time to shine.
Finally, in the spring of 1984, astronaut Bruce McCandless gently rose, untethered, from
In the buoyancy lab.
Challenger's payload bay into the vast expanse of space.
And then we come to this silly shot. GoPro, high altitude GoPro footage, no doubt. Blended, layered in with a silly spaceman layered in there. Ridiculous. And that's supposedly a man doing 17,000 miles an hour around a scientifically impossible ball. Ridiculous. So it seems it's a mixture of footage filmed underwater in the buoyancy lab and also other footage like this where they've layered in all sorts of silly characters.
The maiden voyage of the Manned Maneuvering Unit, the MMU, had begun.
Well, that may have been one small step for Neil, but it's a heck of a big leap for me. Roger, copy that, Bruce.
For the first time in history, a man was flying in space, alone and untethered, in full control of his movements, traveling over 17,000 miles an hour, 150 miles above the Earth.
Now listen to Bruce's voice here. Bearing in mind the SAP doing over 17,000 miles an hour going around a ball at ludicrous speeds, not attached to the Earth. The first to ever do this. Now listen to Bruce's voice.
We sure have a nice flying machine here.
Roger, it's a great team effort.
Ridiculous. There would be a bit of adrenaline in your voice there, Bruce, if you were doing those kind of speeds. And as we're about to see now anyway, as if the footage wasn't bad enough and obvious enough. And of course, Bob gave the game away with his talk about Denver being up there, when of course you're supposed to be in a spaceship above the whole of the Earth. Oops. You're now about to give it away even more here, as you retell and recap over this historical mission. And it would seem you don't even know what you've supposedly done. Dear, oh dear, bear with me. Like I say, when we listen to our mate here, Bruce, discussing his achievements on this historical mission, when he got back to Earth, literally weeks after, it would seem Bruce didn't even know what he was doing. So let's have a look.
Basically, we were very pleased with the way the MMU handled. It was very much like the simulations at the Martin Company in Denver, except that we did find that when translating with...
Yeah, well, the one in Denver's a mechanical device like we saw earlier, and you guys are in the underwater pool. So one's underwater, the other one's mechanical. The mechanical one's for show, the underwater one is the space pantomime production. Thanks, Bruce.
The attitude hull system activated, since we had built it to conserve propellant by turning some of the thrusters off if you started to pick up a rotational rate. This hadn't been modeled in detail in the simulator. You got an averaged response, and of course here you could feel every little thruster coming on and off. But other than that...
Thruster. I think you mean bubble, champ.
The flying characteristics were virtually identical to the simulator, and of course, Here we had complete freedom to turn somersaults and maneuver about all three rotational axes, and actually the orbital mechanics were much more realistic, and of course the quality of the visuals, that is the scene, was a lot higher here than.
I want you to listen to Bruce's voice here and listen to his words very carefully. Bearing in mind, this is a historical first. He's independent of the spaceship, the shuttle. He's doing supposedly 17,000 miles an hour. You'd remember this till the day you die, every single bit of this. Yet Bruce is like, I guess this is me backing up. Let's have a listen.
In any simulator. Here I am, I guess, backing out to 150.
Bruce, yeah, that's supposedly you doing 17,000 mile an hour, mate. Backwards as well, backing away from the space station. You might want to put a bit more excitement in your voice. You might want to be a bit more aware of these historical achievements you've supposedly done. Just come back. As if that underwater pantomime there wasn't bad enough.
Here than in any simulator. Here I am, I guess, backing out to 150 feet, coming back in, and then out to 300 and coming back in. This is approximately the same sort of.
Now I'm going to ask you a question. Does Bruce's voice sound like someone who's been hurtling around a ball at 17,000 mile an hour? Or does it sound like someone who's just been tomfooling around in a swimming pool in Houston?
Translation that the folks on the next mission, the Solar Maximum Repair mission, will be faced with in moving.
Yeah, it sounds like someone's been messing around in a pool in Houston, pretending to be in space. Bruce, have a coffee next time. You're not here no more. Rest in peace, fella. But you should have had a couple of coffees to amp yourself up a bit. You're supposed to be doing 17,000 mile an hour in this historical thing, and you were like, yeah, this is me, I guess, backing up, yeah. You blew it, Bruce, just like Bob. Dear, oh dear.